So today I want to talk about how I've kind of realized how men have helped my life, and yeah, it's a bit funny, um, but it's kind of more of how men have kind of helped me in how I receive information, process it, and how do I resolve problems while being able to kind of process it well, think about it, and think about solutions in quite a logical or rational way. In a sense, it's not about having a logical or rational solution to stuff, but kind of being able to handle your emotions probably, and be able to kind of think about stuff more thoroughly. um, and the reason why I've kind of come to this thought is because I've seen sometimes some people who, when they're faced with certain problems, they just get so overwhelmed. Just really get so overwhelmed, and sometimes are not able to see that actually the problems is actually not as big as you think it is, and sometimes they get so overwhelmed, and understandable, but it gets so overwhelmed, and they would just go, oh, I just can't do it, I was never good at this, I can't do it. And then the other spectrum is that I've seen people who are pretty good at doing things, and like they're quite good in their, if you ask them to do something, can you input the number, make sure that this and that match or something like that, like they're good at doing that. But then as you observe them, you kind of start to realize that they don't know why they're doing it. They just do it because they were told to do it, but they don't really know why they had to do it. So yeah, so sometimes it's like, other things that are actually, you should also be able to understand, but you don't understand because you just kind of do it without really thinking why you are doing it. So I'll give you like another story is that when we were young, we kind of used to say like, oh, why do we have to study math, and we're never going to use it and all those kind of stuff. And it's quite funny because I think now, even though the result is quite invisible, but it has affected a lot. It has affected us in the way that we live our lives. Just as when you're a child, um, the impact of how you were raised and everything, it will start to show when you grow as an adult. You start to see the impact of how you were raised and all those kind of stuff. And I think man was also quite impactful in the way that you think about stuff, in the way that you use your logical reasoning, logical thinking. And so an example is that a question that we so often get asked is like, if you have 5 apple and someone ate 2 of your apple, how many more apple you have? 3, right? And I kind of start to think about it a little bit more. Another question, for example, is like, you have 10 books and someone borrowed 2, so how many more books do you have? 8, right? And you kind of start to think about it. It's like, it's not just about plus, it's not just about 5 minus 2 is 3, it's not just 10 minus 2 is 8, but it's about thinking what you need to do when you were faced with that kind of question. So if someone eats 2 of your apple, do you add it? Is it 5 plus 2, or is it 5 minus 2? So this kind of things you need to think about, right? And I think sometimes people get quite fixated in the like, if someone takes it, then it's a minus, or if someone borrows it, then it's a minus. But it's actually, you kind of need to really think about it, think about it even more. So So it comes down to more of a person's understanding of things, more than just kind of like 5 minus 2 is 3. And there are people who are good at it. Like, you can actually see in class before, there are people who are good at it, and if you gave them the same kind of questions, they're really good at it. But like, they don't understand, or I'm not saying they, it could be me too, but like, don't understand the fundamental reason. And so that's why even when we are at class or at school, you know this happens a lot. In exam, they suddenly change the question, and you're just like, this was never taught at class, and I don't know why you are giving me this kind of questions when you've never taught me about this. And but sometimes it's just the questions are kind of changed a little bit, but the fundamental kind of reasoning on how you could answer the question is still the same. So it comes down again to whether you have truly understood the concept, the reason, the reason, or you understand the logical reason behind it, so that no matter how much the question is changed, then you're still able to answer it. So I remember this one time when I was at uni, and we had this really amazing statistic class, and I really liked the teacher. She was so good. She just kind of made us kind of real, or at least for me, made me kind of realize the logical reasoning why we use this method. If this is the question, what are they asking, and all these kind of things. Like, basically, she kind of makes us more understand even more, a little bit more about the why you do it. And so I remember when we had this exam, the question was all so different from what we usually practice. And I remember just looking at each other, and we're just like, what? And I remember just looking at the question and just like, we've never had this kind of questions before. But then after kind of 2 or 3 minutes or something, then you kind of start to see people who finally gets it, like, oh, like, this is the way you answer it, and also, like, and me too, like, when I saw it, I was really like, oh, you finally kind of, something in your mind kind of clicks, and it's like, right, that's it, that's how you solve the question. And it's because you kind of understood the concept behind it. And so however the question is kind of changed, like, you don't panic, you think through things, you think it through, and see how can we resolve this, and I think also in life, this is where it gets to life, and I think also in life, sometimes in life it's like that also. Sometimes I think we're thrown the same questions, but just a little bit of difference, just a little bit of different, and maybe how it happened, through whom it happened, and all those kind of things, but the fundamental way to solve it is actually sometimes still quite the same. You just need to think through it a little bit more, how you can solve it. So I kind of, and I kind of thought about it a little bit more, why some people can and why some people can't. And I realized this is like, and I used to teach a lot of young kids also, and I used to teach kind of like a little bit of like science, technology, engineering, and math. And there was also a time where I taught math to kids, and so it's so funny. It's a big classroom, right? And then you can see people who are like, kids who are like, they'll just see what the next person is doing, and they just like copy it. And then you can see people who are like, you just see that they like have this like, I understand, I understand, and then you just change the question, and they're like, they'll think for a little bit, and then they're like, oh, and they're like, and you can kind of see it's like when people are able to kind of really process things, understand things really well, then whatever kind of question that comes in the future, they're able to kind of resolve it, because they kind of understand fully the fundamental of why things are like this, why I need to do this and this. And so yeah, I thought it was so important, and that's why kind of now I kind of start to realize how important it was at that time to learn math really well, to learn about logical reasoning, thinking really well. And it's not just because math, but it's like what math have done is that they encourage kids to train their brain to how can you resolve it, and and yeah, I was like really really quite amazed at it, when I kind of realized it. And you kind of start to see people now, kind of like, for me anyway, now I kind of see how people deal with their problems. How do they deal with their problems? You can see that some people deal with the problems like this, some people deal it like this, some people are able to think a bit more rationally. This is so yeah, one thing I wanted to share was like, I think you don't really underestimate the things that you learn, like it may seem so small, but in the future, like it shapes the way you live your life. It actually does, and so like, and that's why even like when you were young, the way you have been raised by your parents and all this kind of things, and the things that you teach your kids when they're young, it may seem small, but when they get older their whole life will be kind of revolving around how they have been trained, how they've been taught. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is that I also realized things is like the reason why people, when people have faith, people need to really understand why they believe in that faith, like what is the fundamental reason they believe in that faith. And that's why, in your life of faith, it's not always easy, it's not always easy. And sometimes you get thrown questions that you are kind of like why God, like, and sometimes it's not just that. Sometimes people ask you questions, and and that's, it's because people really need to understand fundamentally why they're doing this, and people, we are told sometimes to read the Bible, to pray, to offer praise, to do this and that, but you need to understand why you're doing it. And so that's why when tribulations happen, or when your faith is being tested, you know why you're doing it, why I need to keep reading the Bible, why I need to keep praying, all these things, and yeah, I think it's really important, because people have faith and then they just lose faith, and because they don't really understand why they have faith in the first place, why they do this in the first place. And so it's important to know the why you're doing it, the heart and thoughts of why you're doing it is really important. So somehow that's kind of how I felt inspired to share at this time. I've taken a few takes now and trying to video this message. This video, video this video, and I'm just kind of like, one thing I realized as I wrap up this video is that because I've taken this video a few times, and every time I take another video, it's kind of like sometimes I talk a little bit more here, sometimes a little bit more here, and then sometimes I'm like, this is the point of what I'm trying to say, and then I go like all the way here, and then it's like, and then I get up here, and then it's like, what am I trying to say, you know? And something came to mind is that the reason also why you kind of like say all this like really random things and you go around in circles is because your purpose is not clear. You know, because I'm trying to share this video and I'm just kind of like, but I want to share also this part of the realization, but I want to share also about this part. And so kind of like I realized the reason why I can't get to the point is because I don't have a clear purpose of what I want to say, or because I have too many things I want to say. Then it's kind of like I don't get to the point. Anyway, that's the whole reason why I started this whole thing. It is about to learn about myself, to learn why I'm not good at speaking. But it was quite interesting to realize about this today, and hopefully everyone also, yeah, able to, I don't know, receive grace, learn something. Anyway, have a good day, everyone. Yeah.